Just a few housekeeping notes before we get going. So the webinar is being recorded, and there's also a chance to win a Biscuiteers afternoon tea for two at the end of the session. So please stay tuned. So today we'll be learning about how Biscuiteers have created the perfect gifting experience online. We'll be discussing their decision to opt for a headless front-end approach, which has been built out by their agency Tom&Co, and the importance of product discovery in enabling their customers to find what they're looking for and creating a positive, lasting experience, encouraging their shoppers to return. But before we delve into this, we'll start by introducing who you'll be hearing from today. So my name is Mairaid, and I'm a strategic partner manager at Klevu. I've been in product discovery now for the last 4 years in a variety of different roles, from sales to implementation and enterprise customer success. So for those of you who don't know about Klevu, we're an AI and NLP powered product discovery suite that includes insight search, smart category merchandising, and smart recommendations. We've been in the market now since 2013, and we power over 3,000 e-commerce sites across 45 countries and 25 different languages. We're also a member of the Mac Alliance and fully support headless architecture, which can be seen with the Biscuiteers integration. Over to you, Lauren.
Hiya, I'm Lauren. I'm the Sales and Marketing Director at Biscuiteers. For anyone that doesn't know who Biscuiteers are, we're an online gifting company. We specialise in making hand-iced biscuits, all made in the UK in our Wimbledon HQ. I've been with the business for about 10 years. I started when it was relatively small, working in customer service. And then as the business has grown, I've kind of specialised in the marketing and e-commerce side of things. So it's my job to kind of make sure that we hit our growth plans and that we give the best customer service we possibly can to our customers.
Perfect. And
hello. Yeah, my name's Tom McCaul. I'm the founder and managing director at Tom&Co. Tom&Co is a e-commerce specialist agency, and we're building we're building all of our websites indeed on Magento or Adobe Commerce, as it's better known. We specialize in building premium tailored e-commerce websites. We have a team of about 80 people, and we maintain around about 40 brand websites, mostly based in the UK, but also plenty of overseas trading too. We're working with the likes of Oliver Bonus, Topps Tiles, and Fujifilm, and of course Biscuiteers too. And we've actually been working together for 10 years.
Amazing, thank you. So Lauren, it would be great if you could give us a bit more background on kind of Biscuiteers and the journey you've had so far.
Yeah, sure. So I guess Biscuiteers have been around we're actually literally tomorrow kicking off our 15th birthday celebrations, unbelievably. So we've been around since 2007. I guess the mission for us was to really try and disrupt the gifting market. So we launched with the tagline, "Why send flowers when you can send Biscuiteers?" So I guess the clue's in the name. We make hand-iced biscuits, and we kind of design collections for every kind of different occasion you can think of. So we like to split it into what you call our all year round collection. So these are occasions that can fall at any time throughout the year, like birthdays or saying thank you, celebrating a new home or a new baby, right through to kind of seasonal occasions. So we've got Halloween and Christmas on the horizon, but we also design and develop for everything from Valentine's Day to Mother's Day, Father's Day, and some slightly more left field and niche occasions like Thanksgiving. And I guess the whole point of the business is to offer a kind of gift that's kind of very unique, really celebrates the artisanal side of things, and is kind of much more, I guess, bespoke and carefully crafted than just your boring kind of box of chocolates or a bunch of kind of garage flowers. We deliver worldwide, and we offer delivery 7 days a week. And beyond our online offering, which is kind of the largest part of the business, we also have two what we call icing cafes, one in Notting Hill, which we opened in 2012, and one in Belgravia, our flagship store, which opened in December last year. And there, it's not only a space where you can come and shop our products, but it's also a cafe and an event space. So we run icing classes where you can come along and have a hand and a go at creating your own ice biscuits, and learn all the tips and tricks that our ices use here in our HQ in Wimbledon. And we also work with other businesses as well. So we do B2B sales kind of working with other brands, everyone from kind of Chanel and Mulberry through to Cartier and Harrods, to create kind of bespoke designs and I guess create bespoke gifting solutions for them too.
Amazing, what an incredible journey. So Tom, moving kind of onto you now. So we all know kind of headless is a bit of a buzzword in the e-commerce world at the moment. So it would be great to kick off with, firstly, what is headless? And also then why you felt headless was the right approach for Biscuiteers.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, headless certainly has become a bit of a buzzword, but for good reason. At Tom&Co, we've been doing it for about 8 years now. So we were quite an early mover when it comes to headless. And in fact, our entire portfolio of websites are all built headless. So headless is essentially a way of building websites. The idea is to separate the responsibilities of systems. So the main separation is kind of the functional and presentation layer. And that is a move away from the more traditional way of building a website, which is often referred to as a monolithic system. That really just means a system that does everything. So it's doing the back end, the functional side, but it's also doing the presentation layer, or the front end of the website. It's probably, you're more familiar with it being called. But by separating those responsibilities using headless, it actually allows you to have two systems that can focus on what they do best. So in our case, that's Magento, that drives the kind of the functional back end. And that is, of course, taking care of things like order processing, customer management, integrations, and sort of so on. So Magento doesn't really need to worry in our setup, in a headless setup, doesn't need to worry about the actual presentation side, the side the customer that is the side the customer is interacting with. So that means that you can then have a front end that just focuses on the customer experience, which ultimately leads to a better result. So we do that by using something called an SPA, or a single page application. So that single page application is written in pure web technologies, and it allows us to deliver a fast and highly responsive presentation layer, i.e. a website. So that's really the benefit of headless, by separating those two areas. It does go on with headless, because a great thing about headless is that you can have multiple front ends, or indeed multiple back ends. The reason that we actually thought or believed that it was a good solution for Biscuiteers is because they're a very brand-led company, and very customer focused, which means that they are very keen to make sure that they give their customers the best possible experience when on the website, which is, you know, what a lot of people aim to do. So part of that experience, or a big part of making that experience great, is kind of the design, the aesthetics, the interaction, and the speed. And they're all things that headless allow you to do in spades. The other area as well with Biscuiteers, which is fairly unusual, is their checkout. They have a very, very bespoke checkout, which is really tailored to their customer needs. So by decoupling the front end from the back end, it gives us complete flexibility over how we manifest the checkout, and indeed any other area of the website. So on their checkout, they have a big focus on the delivery day. Being a gifting website, the key thing that a customer is interested in is when it's going to be delivered during their checkout process. So we can take a delivery day focused approach, where we actually kind of discard the various different delivery methods that they have, of which Biscuiteers, I think they have about 5 or 6 different couriers that they use. And instead, we can just focus on the day they want it, and then we can kind of select the correct delivery method for them. The other thing they do on their checkout, which is fairly unique, is the multi-address checkout. So again, this is a very gifting focused piece of functionality, but a lot of Biscuiteers customers would like to go through the order process and send gifts out to multiple people for various different reasons. I like the idea that it's, you know, after a dinner party, thanking your guests, and the checkout allows you to do that. So you can put multiple things in, and then as you go through the checkout process, you can assign addresses to each of the items, and in one payment, all of those orders will be sent out.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Tom. And Lauren, kind of moving back to the kind of design, it'd be great to understand a bit more around the purpose behind the redesign and what some of the key pain points that you had that you wanted to overcome.
Yeah, so we decided that we needed a redesign kind of at the beginning of 2021. So there was this thing called COVID that happened, which I'm sure everyone's aware of. But basically, we kind of were one of the business that kind of saw a huge spike in interest and engagement with our brand during the COVID period. Because I guess people couldn't be around each other, and there was a much bigger need for online gifting. And I guess what we'd kind of really noticed is that having a kind of big spike, and I mean, at one point we were seeing about 300% uplift in demand, what we would normally see that time of year in kind of April 2020, it kind of put our website really under quite a lot of pressure. And because we've been working with Tom&Co, and we've done an awful lot of work in the back end to make sure that the website technically was working great, I think what it really highlighted was that your average Joe was kind of struggling with the user experience. We weren't really showing off our products in the best light. Our photography was incredibly small, but actually one of the biggest areas that I think we struggled with was with discovery, so product discovery. We've got about 600 products, which is not huge. I know there are retailers out there that have hundreds of thousands, but I guess it's a fairly large amount of products to choose from when you're trying to look for a gift. But also because of what we do as a kind of a hand-iced biscuit company, sometimes you have to kind of use visual shortcuts to explain just kind of how beautiful and how handmade and perfect the products are. We're a luxury company, so whilst your packet of digesters might cost you £1, our biscuits start from £7.95. And I think that actually what we weren't doing is we weren't able to sort of display the artisanal nature of the product in a very kind of effective way. And I guess having done lots of technical work, thinking, kind of patting ourselves on the back with Tom&Co going, hey, we've got this great site with a great conversion rate. I think we kind of realized that the redesign was kind of well overdue. It was something that was always kind of the last thing to think about when we were doing a big project like a kind of replatforming. And I guess one of the things that kind of cropped up during the kind of piece around discovery was looking at our navigation and looking at the content that we have on our pages. And obviously we spend an awful lot of time merchandising the website, but actually we'd always sort of left search to one side. And it was kind of at that point that we realized that we probably, if we're going to do a redesign and we're actually going to talk about user experience in a serious way, product discovery being a kind of pain point for our customers, then search has to definitely be part of that conversation. And I guess that's where we kind of met you guys and kind of discovered who Klevu were.
Amazing. And yeah, definitely that kind of aligns with how we see things at Klevu. So we see product discovery as, you know, a critical part of the digital commerce funnel. So I know that we've been working with you now for just over a year, and you're currently utilizing our smart search solution, and you have plans to introduce the smart recommendations as well to help with automating upsells and cross sells. But before we move on to that, it would be great to learn a bit more about what you were using prior to Klevu, Lauren, and what some of the problems were.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty poor setup. So I guess search accounted for less than 5% of our on-site users. So we'd always kind of knew that we needed to upgrade it, but it had always been that kind of, oh, we'll do that next year because there's something else more important that's kind of coming down the road immediately. We're on Magento. We were using an out-of-the-box solution called Elasticsearch. And you just literally plugged it in and you just left it alone. That was the kind of idea. And we're a small team, so we're a small business, we're an SME. I have an e-commerce team of 2, and one person's job is to merchandise the site. And I guess the idea is that we couldn't really afford to have anything that was too manual because we don't have a big search team to go around and optimize things. And the idea behind Elasticsearch was you plugged it in, you left it alone. But I mean, it was pretty basic. It matched on, it had no prioritization on the type of things it was matching on. So it would look at the name, but it would also look at the product description, and it might look at some of the metadata too. There was no content, so you couldn't feed it any content. In terms of there was a 0 results page, it just told you there was a 0 results page, and sort of like better luck next time was the kind of vibe that you gave the customer. And actually it only returned products. So if customers were looking for key information like our phone number, or if they wanted to understand a bit more about the business, they weren't able to access any of our content pages. And just in general, like we couldn't input any negative keywords. So we have some quite quirky products with quirky names. That's kind of part of the brand. And so you often got some quite bizarre search results. The example I always like to use is that we have a whole new baby category, which is full of these beautiful products that are designed for new mums and dads to enjoy. And during the months of September to December, we have our Christmas range live, and our nativity tin would appear within the new baby range, which was odd. And we couldn't work out why. And it's because in the product description, we'd mentioned that we had a baby Jesus biscuit in there. So it was just created quite a weird experience for the customer. And yeah, definitely was something that we realized we needed to tackle once we really started to think about it.
Yeah, I can imagine that was quite frustrating. So it would be good to understand a bit more around the process for assessing third parties for product discovery, Tom.
Yeah, sure. And sort of just following on from what Lauren was saying there, I think we started with what we knew, and we knew that Elastic was a very manual tool. It required a lot of configuration, and it also lacked the learning. So where you left it would be the same quality of results, 6 weeks later or even a year later. So that required a lot of time from Biscuiteers trying to optimize their keywords and rankings. And it didn't really take any kind of commercial value into the weighting of results. And Biscuiteers don't have a dedicated search team like most brands, so that mostly went by the wayside, and the quality of results very, very low. So that's where we started. So we knew that we wanted to find a tool that could couple both control with learning. And in doing so, allowing their team to have a more hands-off approach to search, and then only really customizing when needed. And that's why we went with Klevu, because ultimately the Klevu learns and improves itself over time, which is exactly what we were looking for. It does have a very high level of control if you want to get very granular, and the more time you have, the more time you can spend doing that. But on top of that as well, we've had quite a lot of success with Klevu on other clients, and we've implemented it on the likes of Agent Provocateur, Micro Scooters, Accurist, and Seconda. So we were very familiar with the tool and very familiar with the success that it brought to our other clients.
That's great, thanks, Tom. And Lauren, it would be good to understand then why you chose Klevu, and kind of, I guess, more importantly, the improvements you've seen and any changes that you've made since implementing Klevu search.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'll hold my hands up. I guess, when it comes to technical stuff like this, we do look to Tom&Co to help guide us. I think we're very clear on what we need, and we knew we needed a much better search function that gave us some element of control over it. But I guess we kind of took Tom's steer on who to partner with. I think for us, the kind of improvements, the overall improvement, I'd say the biggest change it's made is that now search, where it used to be this sort of thing that we just kind of left alone beforehand, we actually use it as a tool now. So we see it as a kind of part of our merchandising toolkit. Often the data that we get from Klevu is slightly more rich than what we can kind of get on a quick glance from Google Analytics. So if we want to see very quickly the trends that are going on our website, whilst we can look at the page views within the behavior section of GA, actually sometimes you get some nuggets of information from Klevu. So one of the nicest things that we're able to do is sort of observe because we're a very seasonal business, is observe new trends that come in. So a really good example is with the Queen's passing the other week, it was very difficult to assess how to kind of respond to it. And at first we just kind of left it because we thought that was the best possible thing that we could do. And then actually within, I would say, a few hours, we were seeing big spikes in the number of people searching for our Platinum Jubilee collections that we were selling back in the Jubilee in May, June time. And that actually helped us realize that there was a real appetite for it. And we were able to put some more into production to help kind of fulfill the demand that we were seeing naturally come through the website, which was really nice. The other thing is, from a seasonal occasion perspective, is that often we'll launch collections 6 weeks ahead of the occasion, but it's a bit like going into Sainsbury's in August and seeing advent calendars everywhere. It's really off-putting for the customer. So what we can do is use the Klevu points within the search functionality to seed seasonal occasions. So when you open up the search bar, we'll put Christmas and Halloween in there just to let people know that it's available. And also on the zero results search page, we can also list it as one of the categories that we can recommend to products to customers, which really helps, I think, just to give awareness of those up and coming seasons, which has always been a real challenge for us. So yeah, it's been positive. I think the biggest thing now is that actually our merchandisers just love it. Whereas beforehand, search was always a bit of an embarrassment for us. Now we've got this kind of nice tool that we can use to push what we kind of feel is relevant at the time.
Amazing, thanks. Yeah, I definitely saw some advent calendars in Sainsbury's when I went in the other day. So are there any other kind of quick wins that you can suggest to retailers when looking to improve their site search?
Yeah, I mean, I would say don't make the mistake we did, which was, less than 5% of your users use search, and therefore it's not the most important thing to look at. I think from what we know, it's a bit of a catch-22 because we were not focusing on our search. We made the search bar very small. And actually, since the redesign, when we've made it much more prominent, particularly across mobile, it's made a huge difference to the number of people using it. So we've doubled that, which has been great. And it's a really small thing, and I'm sure everyone knows this that's listening to it, but it's worth doing. I think one of the most important things that I would say is just making sure that you're showcasing that content. So I think the biggest wins for us, apart from having access to much more data and using that to drive our merchandising decisions, I think that being able to showcase our content pages. So we have plenty of rich content around on our blog, and actually just kind of quick questions that customers often have, like what's the shelf life of our biscuits? And now people can see that via the search bar too, which is really useful. And also just making sure that search is indexing all of our data as well, and making sure that we're able to kind of, I guess, ensure that when people are searching for weird things, that we can show for it, and also that we can actually not show products for it. It helps to kind of manage the brand, I suppose.
Amazing, thank you. And moving on now to the implementation side of things, Tom, it'd be great to hear about how the implementation was for Klevu on the Biscuiteers website.
Yeah, of course. So, well, ultimately, the implementation of Klevu in Magento is a relatively straightforward affair. Although that, of course, that's going to vary from platform to platform depending on which one that you're using. Klevu have a Magento module that they've developed. So for us, it's a case of kind of plugging it in and configuring it. So very light on the development side, at least for the kind of the back end of the integration. Once that module is installed, all of the information starts bouncing back and forth between the two systems. So that's mostly product and category data that Magento will then push off to Klevu, and Klevu will index that ready for searches. On top of that, obviously we are implementing in a headless solution. So Klevu have full headless support within the platform, which essentially means a suite of APIs that we can connect to pull back search data. And I think one of the cool things about the way headless works, I mentioned earlier, one of the benefits is you can have multiple front ends and multiple back ends. Well, this is a great example of having multiple back ends. So Magento is one of the back ends to the website that provides a huge amount of functionality, but Klevu is also another back end. And the difference that you have with a headless solution is that when people are coming to the website and searching, we send that request directly to Klevu. We don't actually send that to Magento. And there are quite a few benefits to that. First of all, when we send that request to Klevu, actually what we receive back is just data. There's no kind of presentation of that data, which means that we have full control to implement it however we like, wherever we like. So that is, falls in line with the idea that Biscuiteers is a brand or website, and we want to be able to tailor that experience specifically for their customer and their customer needs. But also without having your backend platform in the middle and allowing your customers, essentially your customer's browser, to speak directly to Klevu. That takes away some of the potential headaches that you might have, such as performance and scaling. So in a traditional monolithic system, not always, but a lot of the time that request might bounce back through the system and then onto Klevu and come back. Going direct to source means that you get a much faster response. It also means that as you scale up and your search terms and your number of searches increases, we don't have to worry about that. That's really Klevu's responsibilities with their servers, where we've never had a problem, so we don't need to worry. That doesn't keep us up at night, which is nice. So that kind of scalability and performance in a headless setup, having Klevu as a back end directly for the browser is a massive advantage. I know Klevu have been working hard on improving their headless suite of APIs, and it's now complete and working very well.
Amazing, thanks, Tom. And yeah, I think it took you guys 2 weeks to implement, which is fantastic, especially with a kind of headless approach. Wonderful. So Tom and Lauren, could you talk a bit more about other kind of site-wide enhancements you've made outside of product discovery and the impacts that's had across the website?
Yeah. I mean, I think being a gifting brand, the requirements, the e-commerce requirements are quite different, I think, to just a standard retail brand. I guess 85% of what we sell goes to a recipient who's not the buyer, which means there's quite a lot of anxiety around delivery, delivery arrival date, the safety within delivery, especially because we're a food gifting company and the product we're sending is can appear to be quite fragile. So I think we've tried to work quite hard to listen to our customers about what the requirements are, and in terms of how we've developed our website is why we're such a pain as a client for Tom, because we're constantly wanting to do stuff that's slightly different to the norm, which means we need a lot of bespoke work. So I guess Tom touched on it earlier, but the thing we're sort of most proud of is that kind of 7-day-a-week delivery. And we worked hard at our checkout to make sure that it's as straightforward as possible for customers. We've developed a calendar where customers can choose a date up to 6 months in advance. We'll tell them what delivery methods are available and how much they cost, and they can then choose. And it helps us to really encourage early seasonal shopping. It's particularly important at Christmas time because we get to a point where in the last few weeks in December, we are struggling to kind of keep up. So if we can encourage early sales, it means that we can plan our production and our dispatching accordingly. The other thing I think is unique, and Tom did mention it earlier, is the multi-address checkout. So we actually developed it to support our B2B offering. So particularly again in the festive period, we have clients coming to us who want to place sort of 10 to 15 orders through the website, but obviously doing them one by one is very time consuming. So we've developed what we call a multi-address checkout, which allows customers to put through 15 orders within one transaction, which is really suitable for kind of those larger scale orders. And I guess with the redesign recently, the big focus was on a user experience and particularly on mobile. So I think it was the first time we've claimed that we've designed mobile first previously, but I would say this is the first time I felt like we did it with wholeheartedly. And we introduced things like Apple Pay to help support fast checkout and ensure that it's as simple as possible for people to order. And an area that we've really been developing over the last few years has been kind of rounding out the gifting experience. So people love our product, the biscuits, but sometimes they want that little extra to kind of sweeten the gift. So we've developed a range of things like Prosecco, cocktails, tea, gift bags to kind of I guess, make the gifts kind of more impressive. And I'm sort of pleased to say that particularly with the redesign, that actually now a third of all of the items going through our website do have what we call an add-on attached to them, which is really great because it's kind of a small upsell for us. Upselling and cross-selling is very difficult in a gifting business because you can't pull together things like an outfit like you would on ASOS. So it's been a small win for us, but one that we're really proud of, which is really great.
Yeah, and just to add to that, sort of also as well, where we were looking to go when we sort of did this redesign was looking forward to how we could potentially have an app for the site. And one of the joys of headless is that it acts as a gateway to PWA, and PWA is PWA stands for a progressive web app, and is essentially a way of turning a website into an installable app. Much like one of the ones you would download from the App Store, we can turn that headless site into a PWA, and you can install it and onto your phone. So we're very excited to say that sort of next week we will be launching that PWA app, and visitors to the website will receive a notification to install the app. They don't actually need to go to the App Store. We can do it directly from a user visit. And then that will actually appear on their home screen where they'll be able to access the Biscuiteers app directly from their phone without having to type in a web address. The other joy of a PWA is actually we can start to tailor the experience away from the website and make it feel much more like an app. So, for example, when you install the Biscuiteers app next week, so hopefully you all will, you'll see that the traditional web navigation is replaced with a much more traditional app navigation, and sort of the number of changes that we're going to make to that are going to continue. So the other joy of a PWA is that it shares the same code base and features as the website. So you actually only need to really build it once, and then you can launch that both onto the website and into the app. So there's a huge efficiency gain you can get there. And over the coming months, we're going to tailor the experience to be more focused on Biscuiteers loyal customers. So we're going to be looking for ways to make it quick and easier to jump on the Biscuiteers app and order the gifts order a bunch of lovely gifts for your lovely friends. So yeah, that's quite an exciting development.
Amazing. That sounds fantastic. Very excited to see the PWA launched, and the further improvements that are going to be made. And I think I did have a Google, and I know that an 8.6 average site-wide conversion rate is a lot higher than the norm. So it's amazing what you've achieved so far. Perfect. So now, Lauren, it would be great to hear a little bit more about how you've used the data within Klevu and the business strategies that's helped with. I know you've covered a little bit so far.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, now we use it as an active tool rather than something that just runs in the background, which is great. I guess what it helps is it helps us to understand customer intent a bit better. As I said, there's plenty of information in GA, but it can be quite overwhelming when you don't have like an analytics department to take a look at it. It helps us really identify quickly the trends that you're seeing. A really good example was when we had our Platinum Jubilee collection, which we launched in partnership with Buckingham Palace. The media and the national conversation was really not, we had the product ready to go from January, but no one seemed to be that interested in it, and we didn't want to kind of go too early because we felt it would kind of conflict with some of our seasonal occasions. The original plan was for us to go live, I think, in like April time, and we had Mother's Day and Easter to get through before we kind of were like, right, the Jubilee is here. But actually we started seeing people looking for that product quite a lot earlier than that, so it helped us to kind of inform production to pull that run of the tint put it into production faster, and we pulled it forward by about 2 weeks, which was really useful because it was a way for us to then bank some nice early sales. I guess there's been one of the biggest challenges, and I mentioned it earlier, was I used to find it incredibly frustrating about the 0 results page. We had so little control over that with Elasticsearch, but we now really utilize that, and we probably update it about twice a week to reflect current trends. So here's what other people are searching for if you can't find what you're looking for, and it's taking you to a 0 results page. I guess the other thing that we really love is the ability to look at the number of people that are getting 0 results and just what they're searching for, because it helps us to, we're quite flexible, we control the entire manufacturing process because everything is handmade. So it's given us some inspiration for new product development. Just recently we saw there was a bit of a spike in searches for retirement gifts. So that's now something that we're looking to develop and release into our range probably in early 2023. So it's a nice opportunity for us to sort of, I guess, get a bit of customer feedback and see what it is that customers, you know, we like to think we've got something for every occasion, but that's not always the case. So yeah, it's been really handy. I think just having that extra layer of data, and the dashboard is really simple to kind of follow. You don't need to be an analytics expert to take a look at it. It's been really useful for us to kind of utilize it to kind of push the business forward.
Perfect, thanks, Lauren. And yeah, I feel like we've seen some great results that we're happy with since we've implemented Klevu. So we've seen an 8% increase in revenue and a 9% increase in search-led conversions year on year. And I think what you said about kind of making sure that search is exposed and it's not something you kind of hide has really helped increase you know, the amount of users you have using search year on year as well, along with relevancy. So that's fantastic. Thanks. So it'd be great to finish off, just Lauren, just hearing with like what's next on the roadmap for Biscuiteers. I know Tom's spoken about the PWA, but it'd be great to hear if there's any kind of other changes, without giving away obviously all of the trade secrets.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time for us. I guess COVID, as terrible as it was, I guess helped us realize the potential of the business, which was really exciting. We've got the PWA, which is launching. I mean, technically it's live right now. We're just not inviting people to download it quite yet, but it will be live next week, which we're really excited about. We have a really strong base of loyal customers, so we think that that's going to hopefully really help to drive additional sales. And actually within the app, we've realized how important search is, and it's actually it's sticky on the header, really prominent. So I guess that's a testament to how much we now value the search that we have. And in terms of what's next for us, we've also got a US website launching in the next few weeks, which we're also excited about, and Klevu will be supporting us on that. I think for us, the biggest opportunity now is around we feel like now search is working for us. It's really about upselling and cross-selling. So I mentioned about the add-ons that we have, which is great. But I feel like the opportunity for us is really around upselling within product categories and also cross-selling as well. And it's a real challenge for us as a gifting business because, as I mentioned earlier, we're not ASOS. You can't just buy a pair of jeans and these shoes and that top goes with it. People have quite specific requirements when they're shopping for occasion. And one of the biggest things we want to challenge ourselves is at the moment, the majority of people are buying, they're shopping once, or they're buying one item because it's a birthday tin for someone's birthday. So for us, it's trying to work out how we can capitalize whilst we have their attention on the site on other occasions they might have coming up, which is what led us to develop our occasion reminder service, which went live earlier this year. And I guess trying to make the most of the kind of products that Klevu offer us. So I think there's now we feel like we're kind of really nailing the search side of things. For us now, it's turning our attentions to that kind of recommended products and those upsells and cross-sells.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Lauren. It all sounds very exciting. So I think there's just a few questions in the chat that I think are kind of more tailored towards you, Lauren. So one of them is, on what basis do you change the popular searches in your search bar?
Do you know what? I always think merchandising is like a cross between a science and an art, because there is one school of thought which goes, AI does everything for you, and you should just leave it to run and don't interfere with it because the computer knows better than you do because it can process the data. We don't necessarily always take that view. I think we use the AI to basically fulfill the function of a bigger search team, but actually quite a lot of the time we use kind of instinct, and it's a bit like trying to listen from lots of different customer sources. So if we see what I would call a spike, so in Klevu you have your kind of like top searches. If we see the top searches switch, that to us is a really good indication that we need to change the popular searches immediately. We probably check this every day, but also things like if it sounds silly, but if we get a big piece of coverage in PR and we know we're going to have a lot of people searching for that product because it's been featured in the Telegraph, that's a really good indication for us as well to adjust that. So it's kind of difficult because on the one hand, we like to use the data from Klevu as much as possible, but there's a little bit where customers need to be told what they want, is what we find. And particularly that's the case for us around those seasonal occasions where it's very difficult. People won't be thinking about Mother's Day in January, but obviously you want to plant the seed that Mother's Day is coming up and they might want to think about, buying something for Mother's Day sort of sooner rather than later.
Amazing, thanks so much. And then just the second question, but I think you've answered this, is how often do you make changes with the information you get from Klevu? Is there a magic number of customer requests in the search that makes you start acting and taking changes, or does that vary?
No, it varies. So I think for us, the seasonality of our business really adjusts what we focus on. So during the summer months when sales are relatively low, you pretty much can guarantee that the searches are going to be people searching for birthday or get well, or there might be a seasonal spike around thanks teacher gifts. When it comes to something where we have a high volume of traffic, we'll probably be looking at it every single day. So come Christmas, sort of from November, December onwards, we'll use that every day to take a look. There isn't really a magic number because the numbers tend to jump because we are so seasonal. So where you might get like 300 searches over the course of a week in the lowest point of August, you might have 3,000 searches in a week. Or even more than that in kind of the beginning of November. So we try not to have numbers as such, but we try to flex it. As I said, I think merchandising is one of the hardest jobs out there. It's kind of how long's a piece of string, like how much do you keep tweaking things? And sometimes you just have to go with your gut and work out what you think is best. The best thing I can say is I think that the popular searches are a really strong indication of how much you need to swing in terms of changing the content that you show. Anything less than that, I think you're kind of splitting hairs. Particularly, we're an SME, so we probably have a lot less searches than some of the other brands out there. So you have to kind of learn like when is enough. Otherwise you can just sort of dig yourself into a bit of a hole.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Lauren. That was really insightful. So now moving on to the competition side of things. In celebration of the Queen and her long-standing service, we have a competition. This webinar was actually organised, quite a few months ago. So it was meant to be light-hearted, but it would be great if you come up with the name for her 2 corgis and post it in the chat. And as discussed, the winner will receive a Biscuiteers afternoon tea voucher for 2. And we'll be selecting the answer and the winner in due course. So if everyone could just post their answers in the chat, and we'll take notes of these, and then we'll be in touch to the winner. Yeah, we'll give you just a couple of minutes to do that. Perfect. Wonderful. So we'll be sharing the recording and a follow-up after the session. And if there are any kind of questions, you can reach out to myself, Tom, and we'll be more than happy to help with any questions you might have. But yeah, thanks so much for joining, everyone. And we hope you've taken away some great insight. And thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.